Hello there. Today I will be ranking all of our players from who I think is most likely to win, to least likely, in a tier list. This will be based on how their game is looking going into next week, their potential long-term prospects, and how I think the edit is factoring into their chances to win or go far. This ranking is my own personal opinion, and will probably change massively from week to week, but these are my thoughts after episode 8. I also want to point out that tiers are not ordered in any particular way. The first person that left this week is Rocksroy. Rocksroy tried to start making moves in the game this week, as we saw him take charge and try to form the all-men's alliance. Unfortunately for him, his pull in the game was not enough, as he didn't put in the work to gain more trust with Omar and Hai. This resulted in Rocksroy going home pretty easily, as nobody really cared enough to work with him in the future. Overall, Rocksroy was a more old-school type player who wasn't prepared for modern Survivor. The second person who left the game this week was Tori. This week was unfortunate for Tori, as she had little room to work with in the small 5-person vote. At Tribal, we saw some moments outside of the game come into play, which ultimately caused 2 idols to be played, which only gave Tori a 1 out of 6 chance to stay. Overall, Tori had to play from the bottom the whole season, so it was inevitable that she was going home at some point, barring an immunity run. Because of her general chaotic nature, she will be missed. D tier this week is for players who I see have very little chance of winning, and will likely leave the very game soon. First in the D tier this week is Romeo, who remains in the D tier from last week. This was basically a miracle week for Romeo, as the odds were that he was most likely leaving the game on this vote. However, Rocksroy overplayed, causing Romeo to be saved, so we will see if Romeo can squeak by the next few votes. If he can reforge his alliance with Drea and solidify his relationship with Omar, he might be able to get into a good position, but until then I think it is likely he goes home soon. C tier this week is for players who I either see little chance of winning the game, or could leave soon. First in the C tier this week is Marian, who falls from the B tier from last week. This week was not great from Marianne, but it also wasn't the worst for her game either. If other players on the bottom leave, then it is more chance for Marianne to stay in the game long enough for the majority alliance to target one another, and it seems like Jonathan and Lindsay were willing to work with her this week. If the power shifts soon, then I could see Marianne being on the right side of the voting and going far in the game. However, Marianne has lost her idol, and because of this she could be an easy vote out, so I am worried for her in the short term. Next in the C tier this week is Draya, who falls from the A tier from last week. This was not a great week for Drea, even though I do respect what she did outside of the game. We saw this episode that Drea's supposed ally Jonathan was willing to turn on her to get an idol out of the game, which will fracture the trust that Drea has in the main alliance. Drea also played her idol, which weakens her game further by not giving her extra protection. We will see if Drea can recover, and she does have other tools she can use, but time will tell if she can come back from this. B tier this week is for players who I think have a good chance to win, but have some flaws in their game that are holding them back, or are just overall middling. First in the B tier this week is Lindsay, who remains in the B tier from last week. This was a decent week for Lindsay, even though she was very close to going home. 2 players who were not her allies left the game, and multiple idols she did not have were also removed from play. Lindsay is still in a solid spot in her alliance, and can work with other Taku members such as Omar and Jonathan to move forward. Lindsay's biggest flaw is that she isn't necessarily in a power position, so it is hard to see if she can actually get to the end and win, but Lindsay certainly has potential as a player moving forward. Next in the B tier this week is Hai, who remains in the B tier from last week. Hai is overall in a solid spot in the game, but having an overall target on his back by players like Romeo does worry me a little for his game. Hai does seem to have a solid ally in Mike, but he did go against Mike's wishes this week and pushed for Rocksroy to go home instead of Romeo. This could lead to Hai being targeted if Mike were to turn against him, or he could be fine moving forward. Overall, the uncertainty of Hai's game puts him in the B tier for me. A tier this week is for players who aren't looking like they will go home soon, and have solid chances to win the game. First in the A tier this week is Jonathan, who remains in the A tier from last week. Jonathan is a big target in the game currently, but he has solid allies surrounding him in his former Taku tribe and Mike to keep him safe. If Jonathan can navigate the next couple of votes as a huge threat and win immunities down the line, I think he has a great chance to win. Ultimately, Jonathan needs to use his threat level to his advantage, as there is no hiding his physicality at this point. Next in the A tier this week is Mike, who falls from the S tier from last week. Mike is a player where many things in the game centralize around. Mike has many allies in the game such as Omar, Jonathan and Drea that he can work with moving forward as he sees fit. He also has the protection of an immunity idol, which he can further leverage in the game. This week, we saw the vote go against Mike's wishes, which ultimately means that he doesn't have tight control of the game, and his idol is in danger of being stolen by Draya, so he could use an important tool he has been holding onto so far. Despite this, I think Mike is in a great spot and has a high chance to win. S tier this week is for players who are in great positions, aren't likely to leave anytime soon, and also have a great chance to win in my opinion. First in the S tier this week is Omar, who remains in the S tier from last week. This week we saw Omar completely call the shots on the split tribal this week. Omar saw no future with Rocksroy, so he decided that it was best for his game to keep Romeo, which his pull in the game was able to achieve. Omar has many allies in the game, including his former Taku tribe members and the former Vati members in High and Mike. If Omar is able to keep his threat level low, then I could see him having the highest chance to win in the end against anyone, but you never know in Survivor, and things could easily change. There is my current tier list of who I think is most likely to win and make it far. Keep in mind that these are just my opinions, and I am unspoiled this season, and this is very subject to change. We will see if anyone else will be able to rise to the S tier, and I am interested to see how the rest of the season will shake out. Thanks for watching.